Welcome back, folks, to the video number 6 of our lecture series on Excel. And in today's class, we will talk about if statement and audit. And after today's class, you will be able to perform the activity 3.8. And before I jump into our today's work, I just wanted to tell you about VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, which we've discussed in the last class. So we talked about the VLOOKUP. Under the VLOOKUP, we made sure that we always remember these four constraints before we start solving any questions on the VLOOKUP, that the data should always be on the right hand side of what you are trying to look for. Data is space sensitive, so make sure there are no unnecessary spaces provided, something like this. Now, if I'm providing extra spaces, there should not be any unnecessary spaces. Take an absolute reference. So if you are doing the multiple activities, for example, so if I take this data, there should be an absolute reference for the table. If you're not taking the absolute reference, you may end up getting your answers wrong, or you may not be able to find out the exact value. And then data should always be sorted out in the ascending order. What is the meaning of that? So whenever we are dealing with the range, so lower range and the upper range, this range should always be sorted out. For example, in this case, the range is not sorted out, so that you will never get the correct answer. You need to sort out the range in the ascending order to get the correct answer to use for the VLOOKUP to work. Now, after that, we talked about the XLOOKUP also. XLOOKUP in this one, data can be on the left hand side, right hand side, it doesn't matter. It's a very cool tool. The only constraint with the XLOOKUP is that it has to be, you have to use the Microsoft 365, otherwise it will not work. All right, now let's jump into our today's class. So in today's class, we'll talk about if and or statement. So these are the three commands which we will talk about. And I'm going to start with the if command. Now, whenever we in our day-to-day life, whenever we use the term if, so we say if, then we apply some kind of a condition. If that condition holds good, then we say then something's going to happen. If that doesn't hold good, then that thing's not going to happen. So for example, if Ronaldo scores a goal, then his team's gonna win. So the logic statement is that if Ronaldo scores a goal, then team will win. Otherwise, the team will lose. So same way, we're gonna use the if statement in our Excel also. Now, if there are multiple conditions, if the team one wins and the team two loses, so then my team will qualify, otherwise my team will not qualify. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. Whatever we use these terms for in our day-to-day life, we're gonna use the same way in the Excel, and we'll see how we can use them in Excel now. Let's look into our activity. In this activity, we are given some data. There are 6 students, how they performed in physics, chemistry, and math. Now, if a student has scored really good marks in physics, for example, if he has scored more than 50, greater than 50, then the result should be pass. And if he has scored greater than 50 in chemistry, the result should be pass, otherwise fail. Same goes for the math. And let's how we can use the if statement for that. So I'm going to start with the simplest problem, equal to if, and I'm going to select the if. Logic test is if this value is greater than 50, this value greater than 50, then output should be pass. Otherwise, it should spell out the answer as fail. Fail. Now notice I'm putting everything in the quotations. If you're not going to put it in quotations, then your answer will be wrong. Whenever you are using the English words to write, it should be in quotations, otherwise system won't understand it. Okay, let's see what happens. So he passed the physics course. Now I wanted to perform the activity where I wanted to show the result, display the results for all three of these courses. Okay, so let's see what we can do. So then I will select the complete array. So this array and press enter. So pass, fail, pass, because this is less than 50. Now, I wanted to make it a little more complicated. If the student has passed in all the three subjects, then display the answer as passed. So how are we going to do? So think about it in your, pause the video and think about it in your mind that how you can perform this activity. So what you're going to do is you will write this one greater than 50. And now I'm tempted to write and this one and this one. But how we incorporate the and command? We incorporate the and command outside of all the logics because I wanted to have multiple logics. In this one, I have only one logic, but I wanted to have multiple logics. So I will use the and command with that. So and will give me multiple logics. So see here and logic 1, logic 2, logic 3, and so on and so forth. I can apply multiple logics with the help of and command. So comma, this has to be greater than 52, comma, this should be greater than 52. And then the result will be pass, otherwise fail. And I'll close the bracket here also. Otherwise, if I don't close the bracket, then system will not be able to understand the coding properly. Press enter. The answer is fail. Why? Because this is less than 50. I'm going to mark this one as now 56. See, the result changed here. All right, so hopefully you were able to understand how you can use if and end statement to come up with the correct answer. Now, another condition which I wanted to follow is if the student passed all these three courses and also has performed the training, then only he should pass. Otherwise, the spill out should be fall. So fail, shall I say, not fall. So now what I can do is I can incorporate or also in this one, these three or this, then pass, otherwise fail. So or well, you know, in this one, if I all right. So this was so okay. So this was about that how we can incorporate the multiple logics together to get the answer. Now, if I want something like where the student has passed all the courses and has not performed the training, still the final result should be pass, or the student has failed the courses, but still he has performed the training, he should be given the final result as pass. So for that, as my wording suggests, I will incorporate the or statement. So let's see how we can deal with that. So here I'll keep this with me and I'm gonna incorporate or into this or and start the bracket. So these are the logics. If these hold good, comma, another logic which I'm gonna apply is logic number 2. This is equal to yeah, yes, then under this condition, either these three pass or the training is yes, the final answer should be pass. So let's see what happens in this case. Oops, I am missing something. I might have missed a bracket here. So I'll close the bracket. Now everything looks good and press enter. So he passed. In this case, he satisfied both the conditions, but let's see if I reduce it to 10. Let's see what happens. He still passed. Now, if I mark this one as no, now he's failing. Now, if I mark this one as yes, and well, leave it as no, and then here I increase the marks to 60. he will still pass the course. So hopefully you were able to understand how to use the if and or statement. All right, now we're gonna move to the next topic of the day, that is audit. So audit is basically used to figure out how the work has been performed, just to see whether everything is in proper synchronization or not. So, for example, if I wanted to see this particular, let's say this particular term, from where this term came from, which are the different terms which are used in this one. So before again I jump into this one, I forgot to give you the rundown of this one. This is some kind of a data given to me with regards to this January sales and January expenses. And then what we wanted to do is I wanted to do an audit on this one. Now, I don't know from where this statement is coming from. So what I can do is I can click onto the formulas. Under formula, I'll see there are these different options given to me. Trace precedent, trace dependence, remove arrow, show formulas. One way of checking everything is I can look into the formulas. As soon as I click onto the formulas, it gives me a multiple formulas which have been used. Now, these formulas are tough to understand. B15, where I'm going to keep on searching for B15 and blah, blah, different terms. I don't want it to do that. I want a more of a visual approach. So again, I'll go back to the formulas, remove this, and then I'll see show precedence and then show dependence. Dependence means whether other terms are dependent on this or not. Precedence means which terms this term is dependent on. So I'll click onto this one, show precedence. So this term I can clearly see is dependent upon all these terms. This is the sum of all these terms. Okay, so it's so easy when we have some kind of a visual tool to our disposal. Now, I wanted to see whether this term is used somewhere else, and there for that I will click onto the show dependence. Yes, this term is used down here also. Now I wanted to see whether this term is used somewhere else. So home, well, under the formulas and trace dependence, this term is not used anywhere. Okay. Now, if I look at this one, I will click on to the again formulas and wanted to see whether this term, uh, I mean, what are the precedents for this term? So these are the terms which are precedents for this particular term. And when I wanted to remove that, then again, I'm going to go to the formulas and I can click onto the remove arrows. So hopefully you were able to understand about the audit and if and or statements. Okay, so I'll encourage you guys to play around with the activity. This is really neat activity, and I will also encourage you to play around, come up with some kind of a different ideas in your mind and play around with this. And yeah, I'll see you with another video. Till then, goodbye.